All right, tonight's homework is going to be about conclusion paragraphs. And by the end of this video, you will understand the purpose of a conclusion and how to write a conclusion with examples. You'll also do a little bit of writing yourself, as usual. Okay, just a quick review. Remember to stop and take notes when you see the pencil. Really try to think about what the guided notes are asking for and only write down the things that you need to. For example, in this video at least, you will not need to write down any of the examples, so please don't. Because if you write down the examples, you're probably missing some other important information that you should be writing down. Using the rule of 5, of course, and pause as often as you need to and rewind. All right, so the definition for a concluding paragraph that we're going to use is that it's the last paragraph of your essay and it should provide closure. Closure means that it has a finished feeling. Think of it as like the final closing the door on this essay. And so that's the whole goal of this paragraph, is to provide that closure for your essay. Think of it as like the final fireworks, the last bit where everything kind of comes out, stands out, and is really big and exciting. So let's go over the purposes of the conclusion. This is part of your definition. First of all, a good conclusion, will always wrap up your thoughts. To do that, you will need to restate your thesis as well as your main ideas, but you want to make sure that you leave your readers with a final thought. Your intention is to create something that's so strong and satisfying in its finished feeling that the reader will continue to think about what you have written. Not in a questioning like, why did they write that sort of a way, but instead of a, that was a really interesting essay. I'm thinking more about this because I was just really intrigued by that. As you're writing your conclusion, it's really important to remember that you are not to just take the same words and put them in the conclusion, but you are rewriting them in new words. New word choice. Okay, so let's look at actually how to go about writing that concluding paragraph. We'll be going over the 3 elements that must be included in this paragraph. First, you need the restatement of the thesis. You want to make sure that you vary your word choice from the introduction paragraph so that the thesis doesn't sound exactly the same. Let's look at some examples. Let's take the original thesis, zombies make excellent pets, and rather than saying that exactly, we'll say something like, clearly the next new pet will be zombies, or without a doubt, zombies are extremely useful as pets. Both of these restatements of the thesis say the same basic idea, but in new words. The second part of the conclusion is the restatement of the main ideas in 1 to 3 sentences. This is where you take all of your body paragraph topic sentences and restate them. You want to, again, so that you're restating the different ideas from the body paragraph topics. And you want to make sure that you review these in the order that you talked about them. To change up the order makes it feel a little disjointed, like it doesn't really match the rest of the essay. Most importantly, it is not the time to introduce new ideas. If, as you're writing your concluding sentence, your concluding paragraph, rather, and you're like, oh, why didn't I include this idea? Oh, well, I'll just throw it in really quickly here. That's not what you want to do. Instead, you could take that really great idea that you wish you would have thought about earlier and go back and put it in your body. This might be done in one of 2 ways. You could find the paragraph where it best fits, or if it doesn't really fit any of your paragraphs, maybe it's ready for its own paragraph and you add an extra body paragraph to your body. But it's not to be just added in the conclusion alone. Let's look at some examples. If I were to sum up the main points in my essay, I might say zombies are easy to care for, comma, and will provide companionship and protection. Or I could say it this way, zombies are incredibly easy to care for. They are also useful as companions and for protection. Either of those ways would review the topics of each of my body paragraphs. The last element that must be included in the conclusion paragraph is a final so what. Now this should sound familiar because when we talked about paragraphs, we talked about the paragraph's concluding sentence must be a so what. Well, the same thing is true for your concluding paragraph. You need a final so what. This will help the essay really feel finished, but you have to be careful to make sure that you stay true to the type of essay you are writing. Let's look at a couple examples. If it's an explanatory essay, you don't want to suggest that your audience do something because your point was not to persuade them. Instead, you may just make a general statement like this. If more people had pet zombies, this world would be a happier and safer place. Maybe somebody will go out and get a pet zombie now that they've read that, but then again, you're not asking them to. Now, if this were a persuasive essay, you do want to end by encouraging your reader to do something. So your concluding so what for their conclusion would be something like this. If people want to be happier and safer, they should go to the closest pet store and pick out their pet zombie today. All right, let's cut to the chase. How long does the conclusion have to be? Well, you have to make sure that you fulfill each of the three purposes of the conclusion. So you're going to have at least 3 sentences. 1 to restate, 1 to review the main ideas, and 1 to give the final so what. Let's look at an example. Clearly, pet zombies come with a lot of benefits. Besides being incredibly easy to care for, they provide helpful companionship and protection. If more people had pet zombies, the world would be a happier and safer place. That should really help the reader understand that my essay is now over, but they can still be thinking about this possibility of pet zombies. Now, it might be helpful to compare introductions and conclusions. That might actually help you understand both of these paragraphs a little bit better. If you remember from the introduction, the last video shared a video that compared it to a funnel or a triangle with the point facing down, where the top part of the funnel is the hook that kind of generally introduces the topic and catches the reader's attention, followed by those sentences that narrow the focus and get you ready for the point of your essay, which is the thesis statement. Now, a conclusion is kind of the introduction in reverse order. You can take that triangle and flip it the other way so that the point is at the top, and that helps you to understand that you're starting with the thesis again, only you're just going to restate it in new words. You don't want to just repeat it. The second part of a conclusion is kind of the opposite of the second part of an introduction. Rather than narrowing to get to the focus or the point of the essay, you're actually going to expand the thesis a little bit by reminding the reader of the points in each of the body paragraphs. The final part, you're going to take the hook and rather than where the hook is supposed to get your reader interested and wanting to read the essay, the very last part, the final so what of a conclusion, should keep your reader thinking about the essay even though they've already read it. And so in both with the hook and the final so what, you really want to have the reader's attention, either getting ready to read the essay or to keep their attention even after they've finished the essay. All right, now it's your turn. You'll notice that I have included this time on the guided notes a list of the so whats, as well as some sentences you should never, ever, ever use anywhere in your essay. And so using those helps, you want to write 3 possible so what sentences for your essay's conclusion. Pause and make sure you get that done. All right, you've finished watching. The last steps are, as usual, to write your summary for the video on your notes, as well as your hot question. This will make it much easier and faster when you come to class and fill out your WISC. You'll be ready to go. Also make sure that your notes are complete and submit them to Scooge before you come to class. And if you are using that paper copy, make sure you take a good picture directly above the notes with lots of light, and then crop the picture so that the only thing that shows the notability is the paper of notes. Also, if you've used pencil, you're going to have to make sure that it's really clear. Pencil doesn't always show up in the photos. It might be better to write over it in pen really quickly so that it is clearer and easier to read. All right, that's all, folks.